All right, what's up, everybody? It's Monday and it's time for some master motivation. I'm super excited for my guest today. Um, a lot of people have come on the show and are, great inspirational people, and definitely have another inspirational person today, but probably I would say one of my best friends in the entire world, Mr. Nick Canady.
What's up, Jay? How you doing?
Dude, I'm so good and so excited. Just so you guys, as you're watching, there's a little bit of lag time, and we're cutting in a little bit, cutting in and out in our pre-interview. So bear with us, and we hope you guys enjoy this interview. Spencer Hardy checking in. What's up, buddy? How are you?
What's up, Spencer?
So hey, Nick, I want to remind everybody the reason that I do these videos is to really pay respect and give honor to those people that have been with me, whether it was from the beginning or came into my life at some point and filled me with inspiration and motivation. And you absolutely are one of those people. I can't wait to tell everybody about our history and maybe get some good stories in today. So we'll see how that goes. What's up, Dane?
Maybe
How are
we'll
you doing
see.
today? So, I just want to start off. I always started off by asking, kind of about your childhood growing up. I know you grew up here in Simi Valley, local, and you've been here almost, I believe, your whole life. So, talk about growing up as a kid. Talk about your parents a little bit.
So when I grew up, my dad was a banker, so he actually moved us around a lot. I was born in Riverside, and we mostly lived in California for most of my life, just kind of Northern California, Southern California. I lived in Chicago for a year or two when I was really young, but I moved around down to Ventura County when I was 14, when we started high school from Northern California. Um, So yeah, I mean that's I've been a little all over the place, but kind of in California though.
Right on, right on. And so you said your dad was a banker, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And is he retired now, right?
yeah. He is.
Yeah, cool. And talk a little bit about your mom. What and you have a sister too that you grew up with.
Yeah, my mom was a stay-at-home mom for a lot of time. And once I got to high school, she went back to work. She actually worked for Moorpark School District for a long time as the head accountant there, and she's retired also. My sister is a marriage and family therapist right now, so we're both kind of in the field of helping people, if you will. Um, I joke around, but I help people more than she does. That's my personal opinion, but that's fine. Uh, and she's about 4 years older than me. We've always had a great relationship. She also lives in Ventura County, so everybody's kind of really close knit and close. My parents actually just uh, bought a townhome back in Wood Ranch, so they're moving back to Ventura County. They were out of Ventura County for a long time. They were in Corona for a while, so about 12 years, 11 years, something like that.
So, what were some of the things as a kid growing up? What were some things that you enjoyed doing? We talk about your second degree black belt in martial arts, but you didn't start that until almost your adult years. So, what were
Yeah,
some sports that you played as a kid, and some hobbies that you had?
all the sports. I mean, I did basketball, football, baseball, soccer. I mean, you name it. I was playing as a kid. My parents wanted to make sure that they threw me into all the sports that they could, just so I could get well rounded. And of course, it interests me. Kind of how I am as a parent as well. I really took to basketball. I played basketball a lot and baseball. I played basketball in high school, but that was it. Just very active kid, out and about. Growing up in the 90s, a little bit different than growing up now. I mean, we were always out. We were out playing with kids in the neighborhood and everything. We weren't stuck inside. We didn't watch TV or anything like that. Just always active.
Yeah, and what were some of the things challenges that you had in sports early on? Or, I mean, you're a really athletic person in my mind, so I don't know that you really had any physical challenges. But what were some of the things that challenged you, maybe mentally or psychologically as a child?
Always when you pick up a sport from the beginning, it's always brand new. You got to work at it. My parents would tell me stories about how I would be, and I kind of vaguely remember this, but I'd always be outside in the front yard. We had a basketball hoop in the front yard when I lived up north. And I'd be constantly just shooting baskets. Rain, shine, it doesn't matter. Snow, if it snowed. I'd just always be out there shooting baskets. And the challenge is just staying with it. I mean, I would have a bad game and I'd come home and I'd sit there and I'd shoot free throws for hours on end, just hours and hours. I can't even count the amount of hours I would practice that. I was never the biggest kid. I didn't really start growing until I got into high school. So I was always very short. So when I was playing sports, especially basketball, one of the things I'd overcome was my height. I didn't wasn't tall at all. So I had to rely on the speed or really just getting in and practicing as much as I could.
Yeah, and you're a super hard worker, just in general. Where did your work ethic come from? Was that from your mom, your dad? Was that kind of a little bit of both? Were they super supportive of everything you did when you were a kid?
Yeah, I think back and I was grateful to always have my parents at most of my sporting events. Like I said, my dad being a banker, he was out a lot, moving around different towns, and when he didn't want to move us around that much, so he would be gone for a couple weeks at a time, and then back for the weekend, and then gone. But he was always super supportive of me doing sports. We'd always be, playing catch out in the backyard or whatever, is go down to the local park. I don't know where I got my the ability to motivate myself and the work ethic. I think that's just a mindset. Once you figure out your mindset, and you do it, that's what it's always been.
So when we met, you had been helping out, teaching. I believe it was Walnut Canyon, and
Yeah.
you were coaching basketball, I believe. And
Hmm.
and we met on the football field of all places, playing flag football.
Yes, we did.
And we ended up playing flag football for a little bit. Talk about some of your memories, teaching at Walnut Canyon, coaching basketball, and our flag football years.
After I graduated high school, I wanted to do something where I gave back. I always felt like I was a better coach than a player. I kind of understood the game a little bit more from a X and O standpoint rather than naturally gifted athlete. And I was fortunate enough to go back and coach. Actually, coached at Moorpark High School basketball for I think 2 years. And I just enjoyed working with kids. I mean, I guess they were almost the same age as me at that point. But my mom working in Moorpark School District got me a job at Walnut Canyon. They had an after school program there, and I decided to start up with that. And I loved every second of working with the kids. That's such a rewarding thing. The kids don't care. They don't care who you are or what it is. They just care that they're having a good time. You're teaching them what they want to teach. So it was good. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. And then so we met playing flag football, through a mutual friend, and I had this
Hmm.
crazy idea that I was going to hire these two kids, you and Chris Johnson, to come and teach
Yep.
martial arts, never having any martial arts experience. For those of you, Spencer trained with you. Dane Evans is one of our students now. Just knows you a little bit more as a parent, actually. Rick Lidiaco watching. What was your experience like starting in martial arts?
Um, I still remember the day we met. I remember you're talk about someone who's always working. I mean, we were on the flag football field trying to have a good time, and you're poking and prodding like, "Hey, you guys ever thought about doing martial arts? You ever done martial arts? You ever taught martial arts? You want to do it? You want to do that?" It's like, dude, I'm trying to focus on the game. But no, I mean, honestly, truly, the one decision I think that was a crossroad that definitely changed the route that I would go in my life, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit, was deciding to take you up on the offer. You offered us a free class, like, hey, come to the studio. I'll teach you guys a class, and whatever. Me and Chris Johnson, whatever. Let's just hammer it out and see what it's about. And I still remember that class to this day. I remember how hard it was. I remember thinking, oh, I'm an athlete. I got this. Like whatever. And I remember getting into my car, and I had a stick shift for a car. So I remember trying to push down on the clutch. I remember my leg wanted to give out. I could barely push down. And I thought to myself, I'm never coming back to this place. And obviously I did. But no, martial arts challenged me like nothing I've ever been challenged before. Full body workout. It wasn't just using, your legs or your arms, everything. And it was such a great class. And it was a chance to see something that I was kind of weird at. I had two left feet when I first started. Never happened before in my life, and it was a challenge. I was like, all right, cool. Like I want to do this. Let's see what we got. And obviously there was a job on the back end of it too. Kind of same field that I was currently in, teaching kids, so that also helped. But yeah, I remember that class very vividly and that day very vividly.
Well, I remember, you guys both having, great attitudes. You just had this energy about you that I loved. It fit in with the model of what our school was at that time, and it's changed over the years, of course. But you guys were there like right in the beginning of like our school really starting to boom and really make a difference. I mean, I was probably almost 10 years into my business when you guys came on, but then I
Yeah.
mean, we did a lot of cool stuff. What were some of your favorite things about teaching martial arts? What made you stick with that job? Because if I remember correctly, I didn't pay you real well in the beginning, right? It was kind of like, yeah, I'll let you guys train for free if you come and teach some classes. Um, but you guys were able to almost create opportunities for yourself, which made me look at things differently. So what do you remember just starting out? What kept you coming back?
To touch on it as far as like, not being paid very well, but kind of trading training. Like I said, after the first class, after I kind of got my car home eventually, for not being able to push in the clutch, I was addicted. Like I wanted to keep coming back and doing it. And you kind of dangled the carrot in front of us, like, hey, you can train for free. And we would train for hours. I mean, we'd be at the studio for 3, 4, 5 hours in the afternoon before classes even started. And it was just a challenge. It was the challenge of getting better and earning that next stripe, right? And then being able to teach karate, and if you've never done it before, the best way I know how to describe it, and what kept me there for such a long time, is these kids that are 3, 4, 5 years old, all the way up to, I mean, shoot, all the way up to our old student at the time was in her 60s when I
Hmm.
first started. And these kids, you walk in and you're a superhero. You're like the best thing ever, and that's addicting. It really is. So that's what kind of kept me coming back and kind of motivated to keep doing what I was doing, keep training, keep getting better, keep teaching the kids. You start learning these kids, you learn their names, their siblings, their parents. You have great relationships. And I had no idea really what I was doing at the beginning. And then over time, I was an instructor, and now I'm coming out as a parent. It's completely different being a parent in that, but it was awesome. I mean, to this day, I wish I could still do it. And I think that you and I both met at the perfect time for me because I was in college, trying to just figure out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, and money didn't really matter at that point. I lived with my parents at that point, and they said, "Hey, as long as you have a job, we're not going to kick you out. We'll support you. We'll do what we can do for you." So money didn't really matter at that point. It was just about kind of eating up the knowledge that I was getting. And I had no idea the type of knowledge I was getting at that time either.
I remember those days, of working out. I mean, we would meet up at sometimes 8 or 9 in the morning, and we would literally train in the school. Sometimes we go hit the gym. Sometimes we go out for a run. I mean, we were spending a lot of time together, and really grew a great friendship and a brotherhood, which is kind of what martial arts does. A lot of times anyway, but we became really close, and then it just kind of led into more teaching, and we ended up opening the second school. I mean, when I opened the second school, it was because I had you in mind, like that was going to be your school in Simi Valley. And of course, those of you that know our history, that one didn't work out. But there was just we went through a lot of humps, a lot of different challenges. You guys were there the very first time I went to the Maya Super Show. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, of course I do.
Now, I said we have to be careful on some of the stories we talk about at the Super Show,
For many
but
reasons. Yeah.
um, what made you see this vision? How did you see this vision of where our school is going? Because at the time, I mean, we were a very small school. Uh, we weren't making a lot of money, to be honest, and but we saw this Super Show, and we saw Maya as like this beacon of light, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is like what we need to do. Um, but what was the vision that kind of kept you there for almost 10 years here at our school?
It's funny that you mentioned Vegas and Maya and everything, and there are many stories that we can tell that should remain over there, which they will. But it's shock value. Like if nobody's ever been to the Maya event, You go in and it's 4 days, 3 days of just here, let me slam you with all this information in your face. And being a head instructor, a program director, and if you're somebody who is always striving to be better, knowing that, hey, I'm good today, but tomorrow I need to be better. And there are classes that they would hold. I mean, hour-long seminars for people that had either 10 schools and 100,000 students. This is how you get here, or schools of like, hey, we've got one school of 100 students, and this is what we did for marketing, or new students, or retention, or upgrades, or building, or whatever it was. And it literally was being hit in the face with so much information. It was almost like Christmas morning, or all the nights of Hanukkah all rolled into one. And it's like, okay, cool, I've got all this cool stuff. Let me go back to the school and try to implement it. And I mean, it's funny that we would always say, hey, the Superstore is only once a year, but truly you'd get so much information in that weekend, that 4 days, that it'd take a year to implement it. I mean, really, truly. And then you'd be ready for more. So, just the constant trying to implement something, trying to take the information and go, okay, cool, I've got this. I'm gonna try this for my new students. I'm gonna try this for my retention. Okay, well, that didn't really work so well. Let me do this. Let me do that. And it's like, okay, well, that works. That sticks. Let's go on to something else, So it was just, I mean, working for the karate school, 10 years, like I don't look at it as 10 years. I look at it as an amazing experience that I had. That helped shape me who I am today. Obviously helped shape me more than I knew it would shape me back in the day, many, many years ago than it does today, So it was just such a great experience, such fun experience. Always coming to work, always being challenged to do whatever you put your mind to, as far as, hey, teaching a good class. That's very difficult to do, to teach a good, fluent, safe class. It's extremely difficult. Nobody has any idea how to teach a great class to 3-year-olds that have no attention span at all, but just look at you as a superhero, and you've got to be able to keep them engaged. You have to keep the parents engaged too. Like it's such a great challenge, and it was so much fun. And the thing that stuck with me for such a long time was no day was the same as the day before. And I truly would feel, I'd go to bed and feel like, hey, I made a difference today. Not, like, oh, I saved babies from a burning building, but truly you could go to sleep and wake up in the morning and know that, hey, I'm making a difference in someone's life, and it would not be just someone, it'd be all of our students.
Yeah, and you had the experience of for a very short time being a student, right? It started out as being a student, then assistant instructor, then we sent you out as a satellite instructor, then you became a full-time instructor, to a head instructor, to a program director, and ultimately just managing the whole deal. I mean, so you've literally run the gambit of doing every possible thing in the school. And it's really cool because I look at you as a consultant in a way, because I bring you in for team meetings from time to time to talk with our current staff about how it used to be, or how you learned it. And it's kind of nice to hear it from you sometimes too, because when they're always listening to me, it's like daddy talking, and totally different point of view. So you talked about it a couple times too, right? And after being at the school for 10 years, it was time to move on, and you ended up going to work for Verizon Wireless. As a matter of fact, 3 of our instructors went on to work for Verizon Wireless. They got some great employees. Talk about how moving into Verizon, the transfer. Talk about what you learned going into Verizon, and how it helped you, and then we'll get into your current career.
Um, it's funny is Verizon was kind of that step to, I had moved out of my house when I was working for the studio. I had the great fortune and being lucky. I always say better to be lucky than good, and I'll say that every day. But you can also create your own luck by working hard and yada yada yada. But I moved out of my parents' house at 22. I was able to buy a townhome here in Simi Valley when I was 22 years old. And the economy like took a dump, and it was difficult to keep a lot of things going. And it was just time to move on. I think at a certain point at the school, It's great to refresh everything. So it was time to move on, and went to Verizon. It was a huge shock going from a small company, a small business, to this Fortune 500 company. You sit down in class, and the first 2 days is like all HR stuff and signing documents and this and that and the proprietary stuff, yada yada yada. And it's like, okay, cool, like okay, fine. But still, same thing. Challenges, just different challenges. Like, how am I going to be good at this job? Um, I worked at Verizon for almost 4 years. I started off as what they call a CSA, or sorry, not a CSA, just someone who helps people like technical difficulties. You come in, not even a salesperson, just come in. You have something wrong with your phone. Here, I'll fix it for you. And then they looked at my extensive sales background with you, and they moved into a salesman, and ultimately ended up being an assistant manager at a few different stores inside the district that I worked at for Verizon. And Verizon was more of a stop. It wasn't like an end all be all. I know Chris Johnson, who was an instructor at the school and left, went to Verizon. I mean, he's made an unbelievable career for himself. He's a head honcho over there now. I mean, think about that. Somebody who's a head honcho at Verizon Wireless, right? Which is super cool. But it was never where I wanted to be. It was just kind of like a stepping stone to get where I wanted to be. I ultimately wanted to be in law enforcement. That was kind of what I wanted to do, and where I wanted to go from there.
And what put that bug in your ear to go into law enforcement? So that because that's your current profession for the last 5 years, and you also work in the canine department. Where did that come from? Because I don't think I ever remember when you were working here that you ever talked about becoming a cop. So how did that transformation take place?
Uh, again, working for the school, the karate school, it was a lot of fun teaching kids, making a difference, and doing these things. Like I said before, going to bed at night, laying your head down on the pillow, and going, okay, I made a difference today. My wife's cousin is a retired Ventura County sergeant at Ventura County Sheriff's Department. And I did a couple ride-alongs with him. One of our former students, the Hasseys, father Chris Hassey, was one of my also mentors in the police department. He works for Simi Valley Police Department currently. Took me on a few ride-alongs, and I was just hooked. I was hooked on what I saw and what I could do. And the profession is such a noble profession to be in. It's got so much great history in it. Whenever we would do our stranger danger drills, for our little dragons in our classes, we always say, hey, if you can't find mom or dad, you go find either a police officer, a firefighter, or a paramedic. And it's like that. How much more noble can you get and giving back to the community, to where you're telling your kids, hey, yeah, this person's a stranger, but they're a good stranger. There's a difference between a bad stranger and a good stranger. This is a good stranger, And so, like I said, after doing a couple of the ride-alongs, I was hooked, and that's all I wanted to do. That was kind of like where I was, 3 steps ahead. Playing poker, you always got to be a couple steps ahead. I was 3 steps ahead. It's like, okay, cool. Got to leave the studio. Got to go to Verizon. Work at a big time agency to show that, hey, I can move up the corporate ladder type deal, and not just one place of business, but multiple places of business. And yeah, I mean, that was my motivation there. Like I said, it happened one day, it just clicked, and it was like, all right, cool. I'm all for it. So let's do it.
So Dane wants to ask, what's the biggest thing you learned as an instructor that has crossed over or helps in your present career as a police officer?
What hasn't? I mean, honestly, just, I mean, where to start? You could start in the generic answer and just be like, all right, cool. Well, my abilities to control somebody physically, right? I huge martial arts background. We did grappling and sparring and all that kind of stuff, manipulation holds, all that kind of stuff. I don't feel ever that someone has ever outmatched me when I'm out in the streets, right? But also mentally, mentally martial art pushes you like you wouldn't even believe, and that helped me get through the academy. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Just being able to talk to people is a huge thing, and it's really big what I do in my career. Whenever I give school talks and and whatnot to kids being in the canine unit. I'm blessed to have a dog to where everybody loves a dog. Not everybody loves the cop, but everybody loves the dog, right? So I'm able to go do school talks before COVID and whatnot. And one of the biggest things I would always ask my students or the kids I was doing the school talk for was, hey, out of all my gear on, I've got all this gear on, this belt with all this wazoo gadgets. What's the one thing that I use more than anything else? And I always ask them that. And everybody always points to my taser, my gun, or whatever, my radio, which is all great answers. But I tell them, like, look, no, the thing I use the most is my mind and my mouth. I've got to get out of some of these situations by just verbal judo and talking to people, so that doesn't escalate into something that I don't want it to escalate into, because I'm there to solve a problem. That's all I'm doing. I'm not there to create more problems. And that's what my training's been. So that helped a lot too in martial arts, being able to talk to people. When you're talking to students, being able to talk to 3-year-olds all the way up to, unfortunately, in my career, we deal with people's worst days a lot. I see people at their worst, sometimes at their best, but most of the time at their worst. And it does involve children sometimes. But being so comfortable with talking to children, knowing that you can't stand over a child and talk down to them. You've got to get down to their level. Make yourself as small as you can, and that's helped a lot. Being able to talk to parents, adults, that was helping a lot. I mean, there's so many things I could probably talk for days on things that helped and how it translates over. But you also have to put in the effort and the ability to recognize that things do transfer over, and this is what I can use in my current profession from martial arts.
There's probably a lot of martial arts listening. You keep dropping these terms or words that we use in martial arts, but you still use them to this day. You're talking about verbal judo and getting down on a knee to talk to a 3-year-old and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's great to hear that. Let's see. Dane's got another question. What is the biggest difference between a regular patrol officer and a canine officer, besides having a partner that doesn't have an opinion on everything?
A great question. Obviously the biggest one is having the dog, but I'm still assigned to, even though I'm in the canine unit, I'm still attached to patrol. So I do normal patrol things. Patrol handles 911 calls for service. Anybody who's having any kind of distress or whatever it is, we go out to it. Handling calls for service that maybe of a stale crime that happened the night before or happened a couple hours ago, or the suspect or whatever may be gone. There's a lot of slew of things that we do in patrol. We're kind of like the Swiss Army knife. I always tell my trainees, I'm a field training officer also, I'm sure we'll touch on that, but I always tell my trainees, you start a 12-hour shift and you're going to wear 4 or 5 different hats on that 12-hour shift. You're going to be a mentor. You're going to give somebody advice. You're going to have to be the bad guy and write somebody a ticket. You're going to be somebody who has to deal with, possibly a mental health issue where you have to get somebody to right service, and you got to know how to talk to them as well. And then you might go and arrest somebody or get into an altercation, a fight, whatever it may be, to handle the situation. You're wearing so many different hats on patrol. But the difference between a canine officer and patrol officer, I mean, you hit it on the head. Really, it's having the dog. And like I said, people like me slightly a little bit more because I've got the dog. And he never complains. He doesn't complain about what radio station I listen to. He doesn't complain if I go fast or slow, what the air is. I mean, I keep it cool for him. But no, he's the best partner ever.
So let's go back. Let's talk about going into the academy and some of the mental challenges that came along with that, because we've talked a little bit about being pushed and wanting to find out what you're made of inside, right? Because at the end of the day, it's what's inside that comes out in the face of adversity and challenge. And you talk about having to make an arrest or give a ticket and meeting someone on their worst day, which the average person, it'd be easy just to knock them out. But obviously you've got to use your like you said, use your words, your verbal judo. But going through the academy, what was the biggest challenge for you?
So I started the academy on March 24th. That was my day 0. They call it day 0 because they really don't count it towards your days in the academy, because all they do is work you out, yell at you, make you do things that I never thought I'd be doing military wise. I'm in a full suit. I mean, full suit, tie, jacket, everything. And I'm on the ground doing push-ups because somebody next to me didn't stand still at attention. So because we're partners, I've got to do push-ups for them. So that's what days are like. It's 8 to 10 hours of just pure hell, basically. But I bring it up as March 24th because March 26th is the day I wanted to quit. 3 days into the academy, I wanted to quit the academy. It's my dad's birthday. I remember calling him, going to the academy, like, "Hey, Dad, happy birthday, whatever. Sorry we can't spend it together. I got to go to the academy." And we're out. We're doing colors in the morning or in the afternoon. And I remember it vividly. The ground was hot. For whatever reason, it was a hot March, like it is now, I guess, right? Or like it normally is in California. And we're doing push-ups. We're trying to recite the law enforcement code of ethics. We've got 6 TAC staff. They're all yelling at us. And I remember thinking, man, I can't do this. Like, this is too much for me. What did I sign up for? Nobody yelled at me on my ride along. Nobody told me I'd get yelled at when I was, like, it was crazy. I didn't sign up to go into the military. Though very noble, I didn't sign up to go into the military at 30 years old. So I remember it very vividly. But for those people who know my wife, I remember thinking to myself, I want to quit. Like, there's a bell you go ring. I want to quit. But then I thought, well, I would be more afraid of my wife going home and telling her that I quit than more afraid of the TAC staff yelling at me. So I'm just going to stick out for another 6 months, like, not a big deal. And yeah, I mean, that's a challenge. I mean, every single day you're doing something you're not used to. I don't have any military experience at all, so it was very different, marching in formation, getting yelled at. But it's all designed to prepare you for the 30-year career. They say 6 months for the next 30 years. And it's totally true. There were a lot of late nights, early mornings. And a lot of people think that you just want to become a cop and you sign up to do the job and you go through a little bit of training and then boom, they give you a gun and badge and say, go arrest people, go take people's freedom. And it's not like that at all. They break you down. I was not the same person on graduation day as I was going into the academy, because their job is to break us down and build us up into a certain way so that we're able to serve the community, basically. Because that's ultimate goal, is to serve the community and solve people's issues, problems, whatever they have. But yeah, the academy, I mean, that could be a whole nother episode about talking about the experiences in the academy and what we did. So it's a good question.
So, you're telling this story about being in the academy day zero and getting beat down mentally and physically. It reminds me of one of our favorite stories that we always talk about when you were in martial arts. And I'll just tell the short version, but I remember saying, "All right, guys, I'm going to take you to Chatsworth Karate, and you're going to get to learn how to spar." And literally, you guys showed up with your sparring gear in the plastic wrapper, taking it off for your very first time. And I don't know which of you got the worst beating, you or Chris, but Mr. Cox had the most fun that day, I think.
That makes
So,
one of us, because that was
so,
not.
so if you could get through that, I mean, you're okay, right?
Sure, right? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I don't ever suggest anybody of getting your brand new sparring gear and going to Chatsworth Karate and unwrapping it, saying, "Oh, yes, sir, I'll spar you 1 second. Let me just take my shin pad out of the wrapping." Not fun. Not a fun experience. Let me rephrase that. Not fun at the time. A great experience. I always tell people, I've got different things in my past that have happened, and sitting before you here today, I'm very proud of the person I am. I think I've done well by my family and my current family, my kids and everything. I'm very proud of who I am. But I wouldn't be who I am without my past experiences from before. I always tell people, yeah, everybody's got some sort of skeleton in your closet and you don't need to hide it. That helped make you who you are. And if you're proud of who you are today, then don't worry about it. Like, it is what it is.
Well, Rick brought this up, and because you did mention your wife Ashley, and he said, "I've always wondered. You're married to a beautiful woman, incredible mom, and an equally awesome martial artist, Master Ashley Sherman Canady. Was her being a martial artist one of the initial sparks in your relationship?"
Yeah, I
He
mean,
wants to
like
know.
I said before, Oh, Rick, this is a different type of show now, huh? um, uh, when I first started martial arts, I said, it would change my life, how I would never even know in so many different ways. By taking me up on that one off when we were on the football field. I met Ashley, who is, Master Ashley Sherman, at Charles Grimes Masters test. We sat on the panel, and just had a good time, hung out and figured out that, hey, there might have been something there, and continued hanging out. I knew of her, and I think she knew of me. Whatever, for good or bad, whatever it is. And yeah, I mean, we just hung out and started to date, and before you know it, 11 years turns into 2 kids and one on the way and a house, and oh boy, didn't sign up for that.
Well, I mean, but it's a pretty awesome story, when you look at it, because um, you guys met in martial arts. Martial arts was definitely her passion growing up, and
Absolutely.
you guys connected, and here you are with 2 kids, another one on the way. And speaking of 2 kids, so you've gone from being an instructor, and all the positions that you've held into the school, and now you're in the cheap seats, watching classes. What's it like being on the other side?
It was there's a learning curve to it, right? It was difficult at first because I'm sitting there watching class, and uh, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's not how I do that. And I'm not saying anything about the current instructors. They're great. Uh, my kids and Ash and I, we love the current instructors. Like, it's awesome. But it's just a different way of doing something. There's always 15 different ways to skin a cat. There's 100 million different ways to teach a class. And I just sit there going, I would have done that. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Nope. Wouldn't have done that. Oh boy. Watch that kid over there. Nope. Oh God. And it was a learning curve. I had to learn to be a parent. Um, and it's fun. It is real fun to do it. But yeah, there's definitely a learning curve, and I think he's Braden and Lexi have the best private instructors they can get at home, at least. So
I remember when my kids were born and got started. It was tough. It was tough for me. It's tough for me as a coach to sit back and watch them play other sports, because I've been so involved, and like you said, you have this way of thinking and the way of how you teach class, and it's hard to separate the two. To just be a
absolutely.
parent. But I found that one of the best things I did was when I was able to. I remember a few lessons, when Master Grimes taught Mason. I would just kind of sit there and watch and enjoy it. When I take him to train with other instructors, it's kind of nice to be a dad and not be the instructor
Absolutely.
for a minute. It's you see it from a totally different perspective. So now currently, you're on the canine unit, and you're a field training officer. I
Mhm.
have huge respect for not only you, but for all law enforcement, and but not everybody feels that way, and it's unfortunate. You face a lot of challenges, a lot of negative blowback. What kind of challenges do you face as a police officer, and how do you kind of mentally deal with that? Because you kind of take a beating sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, other than physically, yeah, mentally, emotionally, especially in current times. I mean, if you had asked me this question a year and a half ago, I think my answer would be slightly different, but still the same. One of the things that we deal with all the time is people are always looking for a police officer. Hey, what are they doing wrong? It's never, hey, what we're doing right. It's always, hey, what are we doing wrong? What can be the next YouTube video? And you have to remember that. You have to remember that in the back of your mind. um, the people are some people are just there to coax you and see what they can get out of you. What challenge they'll challenge you with their First Amendment rights. Like, is my First Amendment, you can't do that. And it's like, yeah, you're right, you can. Like, whatever. But ultimately, it boils down to this, and this is why I pride myself in the profession. I could care less if you love the police, if you hate my guts because of the uniform that I wear. It doesn't matter to me. I signed up to do a job, and it's my job. But more importantly, I'm a professional. And what makes me professional is I'm going to show up. If your house gets burglarized and you love the police, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to make sure that we do everything we can to catch the suspect, or whoever it may be. And equally, if I show up and you hate the police, you tell me, I hate your guts, you're a necessary evil. Awesome. I will do the exact same job that I just previously said. I will do the exact same job. I will try to find the suspect. I'll try to put them behind bars. It doesn't matter to me. And because I know my role and that's my place. My role is to help people, period, regardless if they want help, regardless if they know that they need help. But they called me for a reason. They might love me, they might hate me. They called me for a reason, and I'm there to do a job, and I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm not looking to change his mind. You know, we live in such a tender political culture and all this kind of stuff, and I'm not looking to be a trailblazer. I'm just looking to do my job. My goal is to make sure that that I go home at the end of the day to my kids and my family. I'm trying to provide for them, and that's it. And I also became a cop too to uh, enforce the laws, but also protect people's freedoms and you know amendments. And their First Amendment right is their speech. Tell me you hate me, like that's cool. I'll stand on it. You know, we had um, the not the riots, but we had protests and marches and everything like that. And I don't know if I'm standing on the line and making sure that people were safe. You know, you have your First Amendment right. Go do your First Amendment right. Like I'm all for that. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help protect you and protect everyone. And that's why I'm so proud of the profession I'm in because I know so many police officers that are professionals, and we pride ourselves on being professionals in the face of regardless of what we get, it doesn't matter. So it's a great challenge. It's not something I don't look forward to. It's a great challenge I look forward to every single day. I put the uniform on to work.
You know, it's always interesting to me too, and what I have the biggest challenge with when you have someone that speaks ill of law enforcement is that as quickly as they are to judge you or criticize you or have something negative to say, as soon as they are in any sort of danger, who's the first person they call? Right? And you said
Yep,
it perfectly
absolutely.
that love me or hate me, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do the best job I can, love me or hate me. So again, I appreciate you, and I know there's going to be a lot of comments that people are going to show their love and appreciation. So thank you for what you do. Rick has a question, by the way, another question by Rick Lidiaco.
Another one. All
Um,
right.
Another one. He's in it. I have friends who are in local law enforcement and then transition to federal level, i.e., FBI, U.S. Marshals. Given that opportunity, would you do it? That's a really good question.
That's a great question. And if I was single and have kids, absolutely, 100%. But when you go the government route, they basically can move you anywhere that you want to go. I have someone who's a mutual friend that's in Secret Service, and she just got transferred from California to DC on the drop of a hat, and it's like you got to go. And being you know in the FBI also, there's a couple field offices out here, but you know you go to Virginia to go to their academy and go train, and you might be there for months on end. So it's something I thought about, and if I was in a different spot in my life, like I said, if I didn't have kids, didn't have a family, if the roots were weaker here in this area, then yeah, absolutely, I would definitely look into it. But the biggest thing is the travel. You just can't. It's tough to do. It's very tough to do, and my hats off to any government agent that is FBI, CIA, whatever that has a family because that's difficult to do.
Thanks for answering that. Hey, Rick, thanks for asking questions too. If anybody else has any questions for Nick regarding his current profession, any past stories you might want to hear, now's your time. But
Oh boy.
we're gonna start wrapping up here in the next couple of minutes. Um, I just kind of want to end with my thoughts on you, Nick, and I've done this with a lot of my guests, just to really put it out there and let people know that I started at the very beginning. My circle is very small in my life, and there are very few people that are as close to me as you are. And I want you to know how much I appreciate you, as a friend, as a man, as a husband, as a father. I've literally watched you grow up, and I've watched you along your way, and I just couldn't be more proud of you. Um, in just so many ways. our talks our late night texts and talks are means so much to me because we spend a little time reminding each other, and that's what I think makes such a great friend, because we don't see each other the way we used to. We don't work out together, we don't work together. Sometimes you're here at the school and I'm like, hey, what's up, and I gotta go. But
Yeah.
you've just been one of those long standing friends for me that I could never repay you for what you've given me in my life. Our school would not be where it is today without you, and thank you for continuing to be a part of it, because now you're part of it in a whole different way. It's just so cool, man. So thank you.
Thank you. And truly, we could sit here for another 5 hours and tell stories, but people wouldn't really understand the kind of relationship that you and I have. Um, started off as boss and employee, and it's now morphed into something that's so much more. But I can truly tie back, and I've told this to the current team members you have. Truly, the skills that I learned when I was 19 years old, when I started with you, have translated into everything else that I've done. From verbal judo in my current profession to, walking into a public restroom and looking at the way the toilet is cleaned and seeing like, okay, cool, they didn't clean the little nuts down at the bottom. They're not really cleaning, right? But no, I
That's
mean,
right.
you've given me so much in my life, and you've taught me so much, not just business wise, but on a personal level. And um, I was thinking when I first came back to the school with my kids, I was like, man, I wish I could be here every single day and working out and Jason, I had such a great, it was so much fun. We're not in that place anymore, but we're able to find a niche, and I'm so happy and proud of the niche that we've found for each other as far as friendship goes. And like you said, I mean, late nights, sometimes I'll probably text you later tonight too, by the way. But late nights, just the text or you know, uh, going through everything we went through about a year ago, in the current climate. I won't touch on, everybody knows what we're talking about. Um, in my profession, it was, I'm proud of who I am, and so is Ashley. And uh, probably we shouldn't have, but we'd always put on Facebook about certain things. I think a lot of people knew I was a police officer. A lot of people took that as maybe socially attacking her, and it was very difficult. And one of the first people to reach out to me was you, and just tell me, hey, I got your back, and it meant so much to me. And our friendship really does mean so much to me. And you continue to do everything that you can for me and my family with my kids and everything. So I thank you. That, yeah, I think it goes both ways, but you'll never know what you've done for me either. So thank you.
Absolutely, anytime. Always got your six, bro. Hey, couple questions here as we're closing out. Dane, how much training did you have to go through to become a canine?
Great question. So to become a canine, I went to Alabama to Canine Academy for 2 months. And if you've ever been to Alabama, there's really nothing much to do there except for training. So not putting down Alabama at all, but compared to California, like their malls there have maybe 20 or 30 people in the malls on a Friday night, to where here there's 20, 30 people in the mall, like waiting for it to open on a Monday morning. So a very different scene out there. But no, I went to Alabama for 2 months. Actually, I left Ashley when Braden was 6 months old, and she was pregnant with our second one, or 9 months old, and she's pregnant with her second one. And actually, it was more like a year. Anyways, I left her basically having a kid and pregnant. I said, I just got a promotion. See ya. I'm gonna go have fun with a dog in Alabama. But it was 2 months out there, and then I came home, and it's constant training. Every single day, every single shift that we go on, is constant training. I mean, I've got training aids I carry around with me in my take home car, and my dog comes home with me as well. And so when we're out on patrol, I take either early morning or later on in the shift to do some sort of training with him. I go to training in Inglewood is one of my training groups I go to. I also go to Disneyland as one of my training groups. They've got drug, bomb, and gun sniffing dogs. My dog is a bomb and gun sniffing dog. So I'm out there because just a constant flow of people. I mean, they'd get 10,000 people every hour going into Disneyland. I mean, everybody who's been to Disneyland knows that. So yeah, it's just constant training. Training is just honestly constant. I can't even tell you how many training hours I've logged just becoming a canine and then constantly doing it. So great question, Dane.
Mr. Cornwall, Joey Cornwall, wants to know your favorite memory of training at the karate school. You can't tell the one about the
Wow.
crash pad.
Don't want to tell that one. Um, Man, so many memories. Um, Training or teaching is two different things. I can hit on one of each. Training, my first day being there of training was great. But I always remember, the Friday night classes, Mrs. Grimes, uh, uh, training there. That was always fun. And taking yourself out of it. When I first started being a student, I mean, I was student slash instructor, and we went through trials and tribulations with that, having a red belt to teach a class, right? Remember that? Um,
Hmm.
but when I was going up to the ranks, it was so fun to be a student because the camaraderie that you get through the people standing on the mat next to you. I mean, literally brothers and sisters. You bleed together, you sweat together, you train together, you do everything. You're trying to get better together. And I just have so many memories of that. And then I kind of morphed into teaching. And one of my favorite moments was, our parents' night out, our movie nights we used to hold for the parents to kind of drop their kids off and leave their kids with us and go out and just some of the crazy, cool stuff that happened. The games we have to invent for these kids, and um, when Matt Jones broke the mirror, and that was a lot of fun. That was
Fun for
yours truly.
you.
Well, yeah, no, of course. But I honestly have so many memories just all stored in there, and they come all pouring out when you ask the question. So,
Well, we could go on and on about stories, guys, and I appreciate all of that. We got a couple more questions, and we're going to close things out. Adam Parth has a Tang Soo Do school on the border of three cities, and he wants to invite the officers of each city to join and train with us. What do you think is the interest level of law enforcement officers to train in something like Tang Soo Do, or perhaps if taught Krav Maga?
uh, as law enforcement, we're constantly looking for not the edge, but just that continued training. And they encourage us when we're in the academy. They always say, "Hey, when you leave the academy, you've got the basic things of self-defense or basic holds. It's up to you to go out and continue your training." And a lot of police officers go out and get jiu-jitsu or Krav Maga. Krav Maga is like the easiest one to go out and get. It translates very well. It's one of the things they teach in the academy. Yeah, I mean, constant training and continued training is something that we do. We pride ourselves on. We have so many training hours we have to log a year for certain things, perishable skills like firearms, arrest and control, driving, a lot of things we have to do that people have no idea that we have to do each year to continue our certification of being police officers. So I would absolutely throw that out there, and you're going to get a couple hits absolutely on law enforcement coming in.
Just to help him out a little bit, who would he contact? I mean, would he contact the department? Is there someone specific he should talk to?
Generally, is like an information officer that you can contact, or you can go, just go to the front desk and ask for the sergeant on duty, or watch commander on duty, and just say, "Hey, I'm here to offer them a free month or whatever to come out and try it out for any of your guys." Um, eh, Also, a big one is word of mouth. So if you see a police officer out and about in public getting food or whatever, don't think that you ever can't bug us. I love to talk to people. I hate when I have to stand in line and everybody's like kind of awkwardly quiet around me. It's like, come on, guys, you can talk to me. It's cool. Like, I'm a person. But yeah, I mean, you can approach them to ask them, and it'll spread throughout their own guys, their shift and other shifts. So
I can guarantee that at one point I probably asked you and Chris and any instructor to specifically VIP a cop to get him to come train at the
yeah,
school, right? I mean, that would not
yeah.
be unlike me. Hey, your wife's on. She says it's no
Oh
secret
wow.
without
All right.
TSDU and Chats with Karate wouldn't be here at all. So thank you for hiring Nick and for everything you've given both of us, and thank you for hiring me back to be able to train your kids. So thank you guys. I love having you guys both part of the school. It's it's an honor for you to choose us because you could have chosen anyone, and you guys chose here. So definitely appreciate that. Dane wants to say, thank you so much for your service to the communities you serve and you live and serve in. And he also says, and your canine partners service as well. I think there's one more question down here. And Adam is saying, thank you. Rick Lidiaco, he's our
One
question guy
more.
today. One last question. What is one piece of advice you'd give a parent whose kid is thinking of a career in law enforcement?
First and foremost, obviously, if your child is wanting to do something, it's whatever type of career, I would say back them up and support them in any way that you can. I remember when I first told my parents I wanted to get into law enforcement, there was a bit of hesitation. I remember my dad and I having a conversation of, you're getting into a profession where they're gonna give you a gun and tell you, here's a gun. This is how you're gonna protect yourself. And there's a lot of misconstrued thoughts with that, as far as, if you don't have law enforcement um, in your family, and I don't in my immediate family, and on my side of the family, I think I had one of my distant relatives was like Detroit PD, and back in like the 1800s, not even anywhere close to where I could draw on. So parents had no idea. The first thing is just tell your kids, depending on how old they are, law enforcement is something where if you want to get into, they're going to look at your background. They're going to look at what decisions you've made as someone who's an adolescent, a young adult, a teenager, in their 20s, 30s, whatever. So just telling you, make the right choices, make the right decisions. You got to know that you're going to be thinking ahead 3, 4, 5 steps, and you've got to be able to tell your kids, give them that one piece of advice, like, look, if you do go drink alcohol at a party, like, that's fine. Call somebody to come pick you up. Don't think that you can drive home. Or if you're at a party and there's drugs there, like, it's cool to leave. Like, that's totally fine. You don't need to be involved with that kind of stuff. Your friends are still going to be your friends. But if you get wrapped up in that kind of stuff, that could take away a career that you might want right away. And then, obviously, you can ask any law enforcement, any person that's in law enforcement, and they'll give you more detailed. But law enforcement is a great career. If my son decided to become a police officer, that's awesome. I'd tell him to become a firefighter. So I'm just kidding. People love firefighters. I'm just saying, and they get paid to work out. They sleep on duty. Like, everything's great. No, but law enforcement, firefighter, any kind of thing where you're a civil servant, and you're giving back to the community, I think is great. Yeah, there's dangers to it, but I don't know. It's such a great profession, and if your child or someone in your family is expressing interest in it, be proud of them, support them, let them know, hey, this is the current times that we live in. So, just know what you're getting yourself into, because law enforcement has changed so much in the last 5 years that I've been in it, and so much 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But it's a great profession. It's an unbelievable profession.
Well, thanks for sharing all of that, Nick, and thanks for that advice. Truly appreciate your time today. And again, thank you for your service, and thank you for being such a great friend. Loved having you on the show. We'll have to catch up again soon. But for now, we're going to say goodbye, and hope to see everybody next week on Monday. Let's see, who do we have coming up? Let's take a look. We have next week, we got Dane Evans. You're up next, buddy. I know he's still watching. And then we have Karen Eden. Chris Casamassa, you may know him from Mortal Kombat. He was Scorpion. He also did the stunts for Batman Forever. We got Dave Kovar coming up, and then we move into May with Jose Escobar, Danny Cleary, Michelle Liddell, Dennis Ichikawa, Grandmaster Ichikawa, my instructor, will be on, Dave Strachey, and Tony Fournier. Lots of great guests and names coming up, guys. Can't wait to see you. Nick, I'll give you a call in just a few minutes. But for now, have a great day, guys, and make it a great week. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone.